Well, Shabbat Shalom. How are you? Good to be back. I know I miss seeing you guys. We have been, obviously, we took off for Shabbat last week, but we weren't quite set up. We are now very close. This is the first time that we've gone live to the world from. Good to be back. I know. Hang on one second. And now we should be good. I hadn't muted my laptop yet, but we're back. This is our first time to go live from the new space. We're very excited because there's quite a bit on the books. We're excited about some of the things that are coming up. Beginning, let me just say again, in case you didn't hear this during the class or read this in the chat, that we are going to be going into a new study, brand new study on the book of Deuteronomy. I think that the last series that we did, part of which you've been watching over the last several weeks, is this the Pentateuch A New Look series. Well, this is a newer look at the Pentateuch. So we're going to go through Deuteronomy. This coming Saturday is going to be an introduction, and then we're going to follow that introduction along with closely following the annual cycle of readings. So I can't wait to get into that. Deuteronomy is still the favorite book, my favorite book of the Bible. By the way, we are testing a little bit of new equipment, so this is live, first time. We've not tested anything. We do have a new microphone. You saw the new camera a couple of weeks back, but so anyway, I'm excited to be here with you. Shabbat Shalom. We've got a lot to talk about today. We have maybe a special guest all the way from Jerusalem who will give us an update on things. But I wanted to give you a chance, obviously, to talk about either the class, the ending of our study of the book of Numbers. We called it the Iniquity of Peor. You can talk about that. You can talk about points that were in that class. You can talk about the upcoming study of Deuteronomy. You can talk about what we've got coming for you in the study, not only Deuteronomy, but some of the other things we've discussed. By the way, if you've not yet signed up for our newsletter, I encourage you to do so. You can do that in several places, but I'm just going to give you one just because it cuts down on the confusion. If you go to rossknichols.com, you'll see a tab that opens directly to the Ross's report. Go there, and you simply sign up for it, and you get inside information. You get links, so forth, because every week in the chat, I'll see people questioning, like, where do I get the link to the Zoom call? Well, if you sign up for the newsletter, it's going to be emailed to your inbox. It's very simple, so I encourage you to do that. All right. The other thing I'd like to say is you sometimes will see me post and say, hey, join the Patreon. That's not all paid. In other words, some people say, well, I just can't do that. There is a free tier for those who simply can't support. That's fine. We're trying to get at least one place. We've got the Discord channel Horev, which I really encourage you to join. And that we want to see really gain some traction because it's a good place for people to communicate your own studies, some of the things that you're looking at with a whole host of hundreds of other people. So we've got the Discord channel. You can do that. But Patreon is really a nice way for me to communicate to a group of people who follow what we're working on. So, by the way, I'm just looking at the chat here and in the Zoom call, and I see that John Perry has already posted his notes, so that's a good thing. And I see quite a few other people have joined us on YouTube as well as the Zoom call. Let me look real quickly. Thank you, Miriam. She says, congrats to Ross and Seth in the new place. And I want you to think about this. This is our place. You know, in a lot of ways, some of you have been in this building. You saw it in an earlier time when it was not even yet completed. I know the Tylers and Clody and several of you who were here for the conference got to see it. Miriam and So I hope that many of you get to see it again very soon. What I will tell you is it's coming along greatly. Let me just touch on that just a few minutes. And by the way, raise your hand if you want to jump up and grab a microphone, because I'll bring you on stage for sure. But I did want to say we've been working a lot of hours, and that involves moving from the old place, and then I think we have maybe one more load, and then then I've got to clean. Seth and I have to clean that place. And this place, we've been bringing a load at a time to save money. We didn't want to spend all of United Israel's money, so we didn't rent a U-Haul truck. We've been using a pickup truck and a trailer and just bringing in a load at a time. And then we'll bring a load here, and then we'll unload it, get it in order, and we've been doing that for about 2.5 weeks. And so we've been taking our time fixing things here and there. But long story short, I think maybe we have one more week, one more good load that we'll do either tonight after sunset, or depending on the weather. We've had a lot of rain here lately. It might be tomorrow. And I think then the only thing left is to clean the old place and really get this place ready for action. But if you get the newsletter, you know that this coming week we're pouring on the steam. We're not quite ready to go back into the Ross and Jono show on Thursdays, but we've got a lot of other things that are planned. So before we have our special guest from Jerusalem give us an update, is there anybody who is jumping up and down? You have to share something with us. And I don't see any hands raised. So what I'll do, let's do this. Oh, let's see. Carolyn, go ahead, Carolyn. How are you? Did you just shot it up just to test it maybe? That's all right. Okay, Dr. James Tabor is here with us from the old city of Jerusalem. I'm going to let him take it away and tell us what's going on there.
Okay, thanks, Russ. Yeah, I called Russ about, before the lesson today, and just checked checked the time and all. It's 8 o'clock here. Now I know how our Israeli friends feel and David Tyler recently was over, and how they join us. Shabbat's just over here. I'm going to go down to the Western Wall after this. And I love to go down at Motzei HaShabbat because everybody's dancing and singing. And now tonight, because of the hostage protests and all, I'm not sure. I'll just find out what's down there. But this was a quick trip. It's 10 days. I've been here, I think, 8 or 9. I'm going back home Monday. And these are my free days. I got here to Jerusalem Friday night, and then Saturday today, and Sunday I'm free, and then a bit on Monday morning. And I haven't been to Jerusalem on this kind of venue, the 3 free days, for a decade. Because every time I've come, Mount Zion Dig with 35 students that I was in charge of, tour, whatever, filming. But I added these 3 days for me so that I could have my Jerusalem time. And I'm telling you, it has just lifted my spirits like I can't tell you. I got up this morning and I thought, I can do anything I want today. And I know the city pretty well. But for me personally, this is my 75th trip. So you know how we congratulate people on anniversaries, like, oh, it's your 50th, so this is my 75th. I don't know what ring or color you're supposed to get me, but I'll take it. Bottle of scotch would be great. I'm just kidding. So just a few things. I was here to film with Semka Jakovovich. He says, I've always pronounced it Jakovici. Everybody gets to say how to pronounce their name. But I find I like the way it's spelled. And he says either way is fine. So I always say Jakovici. Just that way people can spell it. I was with him. He got his Naked Archaeologist series renewed. Remember, it ran for 3 seasons before COVID, and then it got, it kind of ran out, and now it's renewed. And so, Marianne, I saw your text. Oh, diamond. David said 75th is diamond. So, I don't really want diamonds, but I could make some silly statement that I actually believe all of you are diamonds.
Yeah, diamonds in the
You're,
rough.
you're diamonds in the rough, or I like the image of diamonds in the mud.
Yeah.
You know, we came in from the coal, we washed ourselves off, and we found out that, maybe we found some truth that shines. Anyway, so he got it renewed, and there are 10 episodes, and he said, I want to start with Paul. You're the Paul guy. What do you want to, he let me choose. And I said, well, I think we should do the quest for the historical Paul, because people don't understand that just as with Jesus, you have to know sources. People think Jesus is hard, critically, like you've got 3 Gospels and John, and the 3 Gospels don't agree. So there's a real work to do. Well, believe it or not, some of you seen my article. It was republished in on the Bible History Daily the other day, but it's on my blog. I think it's called The Quest for the Historical Paul. There are 4 layers of Paul. Does that sound familiar? Layers?
Yeah.
You've been studying the Torah. There is Paul's early letters, and most of us would argue his authentic letters, or think of it as his non-interpolated letters. Okay, then there are secondary Paul, and that would be letters that we don't think Paul fully wrote, but they come from his thought, and it's a further development, and that would be Ephesians, 2 Thessalonians, and Colossians. You say, well, how do you know? It's vocabulary, style. For me, the biggest thing is I don't think Paul thought Jesus pre-existed. I know I'd have to spend a few minutes explaining it, which I won't do, but I have videos on it on YouTube. And if I'm right, for Paul, his salvation doesn't work unless he's fully human, because he says he's the firstborn of the old Adams that's going to become the new, and so forth. But in Colossians and Ephesians, remember, he's the creator of the universe, right? And this is and finally we get to Christian, and then you got John and all that. So that's number 2. Then the pastorals that are really secondary, they have almost no genuine Paul. They're administrative, like how to set up elders and deacons, and they have some good pastoral instruction. I've talked to Russ for several years because we know the King James by heart from growing up. And actually, we both agreed, and I think all of you would too, there's some very good instructions Paul gives to Timothy in there that would apply to any teacher or minister. I don't have to quote them, but I think some of you know what I'm talking about. Hold on, I got to plug in my computer just a second. Well, it's not dead yet. I can keep talking while I duck down. How do you like my background?
Nice.
That's a solid wall. The walls where I'm staying, I'll tell you that in a minute, because I'm thinking Shapiro all day long today. The walls are about 3 feet. They're a meter thick. It's one of those 18th, 19th century houses in the old city. Just a second.
You could just pray that your battery life extends for the call.
I laid hands on it, but it didn't get the Holy Spirit. So
some of us have prayed over empty tanks of gas and made it miles and miles.
Some things I don't believe. I remember Pat Robertson years ago. I'll never forget. I got to find a recording of it. He would read these prayer requests that just come in, and he didn't read them first. He goes, "Oh, we got another sister, whatever out there," and he'd just read them. As soon as he read it, you could tell he thought, "Oh my God, I can't believe I read that." He says, Sister Jones just called in, and she had her teeth removed last week, And the Lord put a new set of real teeth, not dentures in, and put a cross on all the molars of gold.
Hmm.
And I don't think that happened. And I think Pat Robertson thought that didn't happen. So anyway, I don't think that happened, Ross. I plugged it in, Ross.
Good. Good. We're good either
Anyway,
way then.
yes. So now I was, oh, the fourth source then is the book of Acts. Okay, here's the problem. That's the least reliable, and everybody quotes it the most. So you say, oh, tell me about Paul. Oh, well, he was a Roman citizen born in Tarsus. I think he was born in the Galilee. You go, what? It's in my Paul and Jesus book. But briefly, if you've never heard it, because some of you are new to our group, or to my books at least, Jerome, Mr. Catholic, right? He's kind of the best scholar of the ancient church, and he's a real good scholar. I mean, he translated the entire Bible into Latin, including the Hebrew Bible. A real scholar, more than Origen. He's the greatest scholar of the ancient world. Augustine wasn't a scholar. He was influential. He wasn't like that kind of scholar. He says that he has a strong tradition, a text, that Paul was born in the Galilee in Jish, even gives the town, Jish, Jish. Today, I've been there. I went there years ago with Simca, and we interviewed people, and they knew the tradition. Can you believe it? They knew the tradition. They said, well, actually, St. Paul was born here. These are Druze. So they don't really care, Christian, Jewish, they don't take sides. So anyway, he was born and his family got exiled in 4 BC when Herod the Great died. There were revolts, remember? Judas, son of Hezekiah, Sepphoris burnt down, all of that. So Paul's family got exiled. Now, what happened then? We don't know, but I would like to speculate that they were forced, they're leather workers, they were forced to make tents for the Roman army. Because everybody says you don't make shoes, a tent maker, as we translate it now, it's a huge industrial job with big, things of leather that you have to, and the Romans have leather tents. Imagine a legion, 6,000 plus auxiliaries, 12,000 individuals, 2 in a tent. These are 2-person tents. We know that. So I could see, and then maybe after 10 years work or so, or maybe they were promised citizenship. I don't know. I'm just saying. So you can't always go by Acts, but the main thing Acts does that will surprise you. Did Paul persecute the church violently and drag men and women into prison and kill them? Acts says this. Read all the speeches. First of all the scholars have said for years, there's no way that would be allowed. No Pharisees are going up, grabbing people and arresting them. Remember how much trouble they even had arresting Jesus? They got to go to the Romans. That's all fictionalized because they want him to be such an example of grace. Now, did he persecute the church? Yes. He says 4 times in his letters, even, and I'm including all 13 letters, that he persecuted the church. If you look at the Greek, the word persecution is the same as the Hebrew word radaf. He pursued, he tracked down, what would you say? It would be like Orthodox
chased them down.
Today. Chase down. Perfect, Russ. Chase down. Orthodox Jews here in Jerusalem, if they hear about a so-called Messianic Jew, maybe who's having Jews over, hey, come to our place for Shabbat, and then, they're going to bring up Yeshua and all that stuff. They chase them down, right? They get in front of their house, they protest. Now, he might have had a way to turn people in or whatever. Now, it doesn't minimize what he did. And he does use the word violently, but actually, when you look that up, it doesn't mean anything close to like killing. It means more just totally, just enthusiastically. That's what the Greek word means. And you can see all the other ways it's used. So that would be a good example everybody can grasp, that if you read Acts, you're not going to get the real story. Now, does that mean Acts isn't valuable? No, it's absolutely valuable, especially for what cities he went to, coordinating the letters and so forth. So I can't say much about this, but once I told that to Simca, I gave him that whole spiel over Zoom about a month ago. He said, that's the program, the real Paul. We're going to go hunting for the real Paul. So we went to Qumran. Not that he's an Essene, but he's the only one to use the phrase sons of light, sons of darkness in all of Judaism, except Jesus once says sons of light, you are children of light. So, but I'm talking
James,
about,
one quick point. Just when you
yeah, go
said that,
ahead.
reminded me
Anytime.
he is also, as I understand it and recall from an article, I'll think of the author in a minute, you may know, who wrote an article in the old Bible Review that Miksat Ma'aseh HaTorah, works
Absolutely.
of the
Yep.
law, is also only used in the Dead Sea Scrolls and in the
Yeah.
writings
The
of Paul.
technical phrase. All through Galatians, you will not be justified by works of the law.
Yep.
He's quoting the title of a scroll. You say, yeah, he could have got it from the Mishnah. It's not in the Mishnah.
Right.
And the other thing about the sons of light, sons of darkness, it's in an apocalyptic context that the end is near, right?
Yep.
So what do we find? First Thessalonians is where he meant it. You are all sons of light, not sons of darkness, that day would overtake you as a thief. You see the context?
Yep.
Same as I don't call them Essenes, by the way. By the way, Essenes is from Osim HaTorah, Osim.
Doers.
If you ask the Essenes, what are you guys doing? Who are you? They wouldn't say we're Essenes. They actually would, but they'd say it in Hebrew. Anachnu osim haTorah. Osim, like you're Greek, you don't know. Osim, you're Osim. Yeah. Essim, you see what's happening?
Yep.
That's the best explanation. I told Simca that. He said, well, that's a stretch. He never heard. Oh, this is Simca. He has another idea. So you ask him, we're the new covenanters, we're the Simchat Torah. Now, notice that the doers of the Torah, who uses doers, don't be a hearer, but a doer. These are technical phrases. So we went, let's see, Qumran, and we didn't say he went to Qumran, but we do think he went to Damascus, and you passed Qumran on the way to Damascus. And then we went to, let's see, we're trying to hit some point. We went to the Galilee because we're doing the birth thing. And Simca, can't tell you any details because it's going to be a huge thing when it comes out. But I trust you guys, and you're not going to put it on a blog or anything. I like to share with my inner people what I learned. He believes that Paul is buried in the Galilee, and that there are rabbinic traditions that I was aware of, but I think he might have convinced me. Anyway, that's going to be speculated. And that would mean that he lived after 70. You realize we have no account of his death. Tradition says he was beheaded under Nero. Look up the tradition, it's 3rd century. It's 3rd century. Clement, First Clement, the guy at 96 AD, who knew he was one generation after Paul. He knew people that knew Paul. He said he was released and went to the furthest west, which is Spain. And that's exactly what he says. So how would he get released from Nero? Because if you remember how when he's tried, everybody tries to release him. There's no charges. Agrippa comes with his sister Bernice and listens to Paul. And he says to Festus, the procurator, that's why he filmed in Caesarea. We reenacted it. And he goes, I don't see why you even brought this guy. What is it that he's done? A guy in the sky is going to come and destroy the temple. Okay, sorry, we don't even deal with your craziness. You Jews think guys in the sky are coming from everywhere. That's not a legal matter. What has he done legally? And according to Acts, they didn't bring up the thing about bringing that guy into the temple area, which we always, remember, he was accused of it. But if it was valid, they would have said, oh, he brought a Gentile in the temple, and our law says he should die. So I think now, did you also notice he's under house arrest with a soldier guarding him? That's almost like Secret Service protection because people are trying to kill him. You know that. People are trying to kill him. So what I'm saying is you got to sort through. So this might be the first time anyone's done a kind of quest for the historical pole. Unfortunately, it's only one program. He's considering maybe doing two. So it was wonderful. So we went up to the Galilee, and then where else did we go? Tiberias. Went to Tiberias also.
So James,
Now,
he's got approval through whatever I guess whatever film group you're using. I don't know if you can say that, but whoever is going to put this on, he's got approval to do a season, which is however 10 episodes.
And that's guaranteed, paid for, and so that's they've contracted. And he can cover anything he wants. He's got 9 more. I'm going to give him some input on the ones that so he said, please come over. And it was very hard for me to come right now. I said, please come over because I want to do the first one. It's the pilot, right? You want to kind of knock it out of the park because it's actually, it's Vision television in Canada, but then it'll get picked up by History because History ran the other series and it was one of their most popular things ever. But he's working with Vision Canada. I don't think that's a secret. He put it on. Go to his Facebook page, Simca JTV, and whatever he makes public is public.
Yeah.
I don't go beyond that. So then we went to Tiberias. And you wouldn't think we would go to Tiberias, but and then we went to Yavne. And what we're doing is finding out what happened to rabbis after 70. Where did they go? You see? Because if Paul did survive the war and Jerusalem is destroyed, and he's come back from Spain expecting the parousia, literally. Remember, when I gather in the fullness of the Gentiles, all Israel will be saved. And now suddenly all Israel doesn't even exist, including the city of Jerusalem. So we went into all that, and it was good. But now I get to do my thing. So I just put up a video on YouTube just now before I came on that you can watch, where I go to Mount Zion, which Ross and many of you have been even with us, John Perry, others have been with us, Betty twice. I won't try to name everybody. Did I call him John Perry? I'm sorry, Baruch. Anyway.
Yeah, Baruch had to smuggle your Bible. Remember when he smuggled your Bible onto the Temple Mount?
Here it is right here. And Roger, Betty's husband, may his memory be for a blessing, gave me this Bible. He had this, it's rebound. He had this Oxford annotated Bible. It's got the Apocrypha and everything. And where were we? I don't remember. I think we were in New York, maybe at a Horowitz meeting or what, but I saw it and I thought, to carry to Israel, look, just like you carry it around in your pocket. So this is Roger. God bless him. I said, God, that's nice. Where did you get that? He said, well, do you want it? I said, no, I don't want it. And then he got up and he didn't tell me. I think he might have told Betty. He said, I'll be back. He went to a bookstore and bought me a copy and brought it back to me.
Nice Bible.
I've had it all that time. So anyway, John, that's the other story. So once not Sharon, wasn't Sharon. The recent, I don't know whoever recently, no, forget that. That's another story. Once they found arms in the Alaska Mosque. Remember about 5 years ago? The Israelis said, okay, we agreed for you to do the security on the Temple Mount, right? The Haram, as they call it. You're in charge of security. That was kind of an agreement. But if you're going to let arms in, guess what? We're taking over all security. Then the Muslim Waqf said, oh, well, if you do that, no tourists can go in the dome. You'll get nobody ever wanting to come. So he's under the delusion that Christians go to see the Dome of the Rock, which they don't. They go because of the temple, right? And so, how many people, Ross, on our tours want to go to the Temple Mount?
Oh, yeah.
Let's say 45 people came, and 45 people couldn't wait to go and thought it was a highlight.
Yep.
So he kind of messed up. So now the dome's locked, and now they're getting nothing. But Israel has the security. So I had this Bible in this bag right here. Always carry. Here we go. Bible fits in bag. And you go through the x-ray and they pulled it out. This is Israelis. And they go, I'm sorry, Professor Tabor. Is this your group? Yeah, this is my group. You can't take your Bible up there. We'll put it right here and you can come back. I said, well, we're not coming back this way. We're going out the Iron Gate and then into the city and, nowhere near here. He said, well, that's just the rule. I said, well, I'm going to just, I think Ross might have told me pass it back.
Yeah.
Anyway, I passed it back and I believe John put it in his
Put it
sock.
No, he put it in his back, like right
I
in his
thought he put
belt
it in.
line,
Where'd
if
you
I
put it?
remember.
Hey, we have John here,
Well,
a witness.
Yeah,
Where'd you
no,
put it?
I can explain that part, James. I
Yep.
had put it in my front right pocket. It fit in my pocket of my pants.
Because he's
And
got
the
big
bad
pockets.
thing was,
So
yeah, and
you're
the bad
saying
thing
this
was,
Bible has been in your pocket.
hey, it's a pocketbook, a pocket Bible. Yeah, but the funny thing was, I
Well,
put it
why,
in my
when you
pocket
went
and I
through,
had,
they're not checking, they're checking for metal. See, that's what I should have
well,
done. They check bag.
the funny thing was I had change in my pocket. So when I got up there, it dinged and they wanted me to pull the change out. So I'm trying to squeeze my hand in past the Bible to grab the change.
This is hilarious.
So yeah, but I'm very happy they didn't find the Bible.
Okay,
and they still
where
have
else
it to
do you
this
guys
day.
have a group like this that has this much fun smuggling Bibles?
It's
So then
funny.
we get up there.
One point, James. The funny thing is they're really strict, and other places as well in Jordan where you're not supposed to bring holy books other than the Quran. But what's so amazing is you can bring an iPad, which I do now exclusively, and I have
Yeah,
everything. I have Dead
of
Sea Scrolls,
course. Yeah,
Josephus, translations
yeah.
of the Bible, Hebrew, Greek. It's crazy.
Yeah, there it is. And years ago, when I first got arrested up there, I've only been arrested once. I was with J. David Davis, I think Jack Sanders, a bunch of people. Some of Ronnie, did you go on that 50th anniversary tour? I think you might, or might not, my age 50 tour. Did you go on that one, Ronnie? With
No,
J.
sir,
David?
it wasn't me, but I wish I had. No.
Yeah. Anyway, a bunch of us went. So I pulled out a different Bible, just a Bible. Back then you could bring Bibles. And we went to that little cupola because I was thinking the temple might have been north. Remember that
Yep.
theory of Kaufman and so forth. So I was opening a Bible and just saying, now here's this and notice this and reading First Kings about the temple. And oh God, they kept running out, yelling and screaming. And some of the people had taken their shoes off because they didn't want to walk around. If in case it was, it's bedrock. And it's Kaufman said it's where the ark stood,
Yeah.
on the bedrock in the Holy of Holies. So apparently a bunch of people know this and have read that theory, and Christian groups go there. I've seen Christian groups there. But in our group, people wanted to take off their shoes. Were you there, Ross? No,
Yep.
this was
Well, no, not
we
on
did
that
it
trip.
again later. Yeah, we did it again on our tour. So we did it last time. The guy came up and said, "What are you doing here? What are you doing?" We said, "We're just looking at the
Yeah.
architecture."
Barefooted. We're just looking.
I actually don't think that's a correct view anymore. I've changed my mind. I do change my mind on things. I think it is over where the dome is, but Rittmeyer and Shimon Gibson have convinced me of that. But anyway, so they take us in that little guardhouse, I think it was, no, I'm getting, it doesn't matter. I think Jack Sanders, that's who I was trying to think of. He passed away now. Jack Sanders, David and I were the leaders. They took us in the guardhouse and they just said, "You cannot pray." You cannot. I said, "Well, I wasn't praying." And I said, praying is in the heart. You're Muslim. Don't you pray in the heart? And they're all, don't, you don't understand it all that.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my adventure on the Temple Mount.
Now you're
So,
in the old city. You're thinking about
yeah,
Shapira, and
because
maybe
I'm about 500 meters from Christchurch. That's
is
why.
this called? Did the picture you sent earlier to our little group was it? Does it say Samara? Is that the name? Is that what I saw? Is that
No,
where you're?
that's a travel agency that has their sign, but the building it's on is the private home of the Petrakis family.
Okay.
And the old man died. So it's a nice Jerusalem home from the 19th century, like Shapiro would have had.
Yeah.
So as I'm coming up the stairs, and I can turn around and show you all these, it has all these little alcoves and things. I'm thinking Shapira's house would have been just like this, when you went in it. It has four rooms. And so the Gloria Hotel people, they don't own it. What would that be worth? Millions of dollars. But they control it. They manage it, I guess you could say. But it's not an open public hotel. They put special guests, employees, people like that, because they employ people in the territories who come in and work. Well, then they can just stay there and not have to drive every day through the checkpoints. And these are reliable people, don't worry. They just don't live within the wall.
Yeah.
But they're Israeli citizens still. So what was this? So it's 4 rooms, and they gave me the top room with the dome, which I really like. So if you look at my ceiling, and you can see the dome in the picture that I posted. This is on, I think it's on my blog. I did post it, jamestabor.com.
Yeah.
You can. Anyway, I just love it here. But tomorrow, Shimon Gibson's going to take me all over, and we're going to do a Shapira tour for most of the morning. So we're going to do what Tyler did and Ross did before, but I've got Shimon now with me. And then I'm going to go to the Pool of Siloam, and Shimon's taking me there too. And as it turns out, despite Ronnie Reich practically having a heart attack over it, it definitely is not a pool. It's actually a platform, and the steps go up into something. And at first, when we started seeing these pictures, we thought, well, it could just be robbed out. But now they've cleared all around where the sides would be. There's just nothing. And then what they would have to do is go the other direction, and they would find what was probably the platform. But at least that's the latest theory. They had a conference on it here in Jerusalem last week. And so just about all the archaeologists are agreeing, even Danny Bahat and people like that, as far as I know.
Yeah.
But Ronnie Reich is, it was his baby, and it's hard to give up.
Well, it was his theory was based, as you know better than I, on many, many previous generations of scholars who speculated that's what it was, from Guta back in the 19th century.
Yeah. Gibson says that's still the Pool of Siloam, but the Pool of Siloam is more that little pool.
Gotcha.
Might have been bigger. That's the Crusader. It's that little pool, but it was an Olympic-sized swimming pool. That's all they're saying.
I got you.
But that's still the pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, where you come out. But
Sure.
Obviously, how it's kind of narrow. It could have been much wider, but the point is it's not behind that in a big swimming pool.
Right.
So Israelis have had to alter their plans. You still have the Pilgrim Way, and he's going to take me with the archaeologist that works there. He knows all these people. They're like his friends, like coffee mates. So he said, if the guy's there, I'll let him show you everything. If not, I'll show you everything. So I'm really excited about those 2 things, you can imagine. And then I have about 30 friends in Jerusalem. And what you have to do is just not say you're here.
Yeah.
I'm here filming. I don't have, because what happens in Israel. Oh, can you come to my house for dinner? Can you come here? and you just can't do it. It's 3,
Right.
4 hours. Then you just can't do it.
Here's
So
the test.
Michael Stone, how do I come to Jerusalem and not see Michael Stone? I
Right.
just can't. So I'm going to see Samuel. I'm going to see Samuel Martin because I've known him for
Right.
60 years. And I'm going to see Shimon and maybe one other person I have in mind. So
Here's the test. I don't know if you'll have time, James, but with Shimon as the guide, you know, when you go down Christian Street, the Tylers and Jonah and I went on this last trip, and it was really tough because first of all, you're dealing with a very tense situation. A group called Ateret HaKohanim are buying up properties,
right.
and they're
They're
doing it.
afraid you're going to spy it
Yeah,
out.
so they think, why is this American guy, you know? And then Dave is paying people because we wanted to go into what was the pool. It's called Hezekiah's Pool, which is that, you know, that central pool area
exactly.
behind Christian Street. You could see Shapira's shop. That's what we wanted to do, but we ended up getting to some observation points thanks to Dave and Patty getting some money in the guy's hands. But we weren't able at the time. We ran out of time. I think maybe Shimon might know someone. But if you can get in that pool area, I mean, I know your time is limited. If you can, that would be wonderful. And then you know the shop. Go take pictures, some really good pictures.
Yeah, you want to look at it from the outside because we have pictures and everything.
Yeah.
Now, what is it that Hamilton wants? I need to check. He said, "Ask Shimon."
Yeah. He wants
something about the stairway of the shop he's trying to figure something.
Yeah, he's looking at a picture from the 19th century. The rest of you will follow this, but if you're looking at what is now what was Shapira's shop, it's 74, 75, and 76 Christian Street. A guy named Hemdi, Hemdi, runs the shop. But if you look up, which is what Matthew wants to do, to see if the stonework matches his photograph, as I recall, that you can't do that anymore because now, you know, they have that street is covered with sort of a shade, you know, so, but maybe you can, but that's what he wants is some photographs of that stonework.
Why does he want to know if the stonework's the same to prove it's the place?
Yeah, because if so, it would be the only photograph that we have from the 19th century of Shapira's shop. From a distance, it's from a distance, but.
Okay, I think I'll forward that email to Shimon tonight and have him put that on his list.
Yep.
And then I'll go to the Mount Zion headquarters here that we have all of our fines for since the year 2000. So we had to quit during the Intifada and then we missed COVID. So it's not like 24 years of digging, but we certainly have 17, 18 years of digging. And he's trying to finish all the pottery sorting. He's staying through December. That's what he came to do. And then we're going to be publishing our volumes on Mount Zion that are going to be fabulous. So
what about the American colony, James? Have you had a chance? I know your time in Jerusalem's been limited because all the filming in the desert, the Judean wilderness, but have you had a chance to go by? I know you like to go to the American colony and
not yet. I got here last night.
Okay, yeah.
We were invited to Hani Barkat's home. He's a very famous Muslim Arab friend of Shimon's whose family owned most of the buildings up on Mount Zion. Very famous name. Actually, it's his wife's family. And so he invited us and they had a little reception for me. It was quite nice. And then, so that took up that. And then today I just did my own thing. And tomorrow I'll be with him. Probably tomorrow night, Sunday night would be a good time to go. I'll probably go to the Colony. Do you want me to check anything there?
No,
particular?
I know they had displayed there the last time. Again, the Tylers and Jonah and I were there. We did get to see one of the displays of some of the Moabitica, and there's also displays at
Yeah.
Tico
I took
House.
pictures of that. Then Shimon, we're going to end it at Tico and have tea. That's the plan, or have lunch. So
good
so I'm
stuff.
doing all the things you guys did earlier on 2 trips, and I couldn't go. So now I'm doing all that. So we'll be all caught up.
Good stuff. Well, maybe
as far as the only other thing, restoring Abrahamic faith, I know you guys are thinking, oh, he's just going to say it's delayed again. And it is. But no, I almost was able to get it out. If I hadn't had this trip, it would be out. So when I get back, I'm going in September on a 2-week, the Bar Biblical Archaeology Society has invited me to go on a cruise, and it's the cities of Paul. And so I'm going to do that. So I could almost promise that I want that book out in August before I leave, because otherwise then you're into September, October. And I'm writing tonight before I go to the wall. I've already got it written, but the preface I'm going to rewrite a little bit and then date it today and put Old City, Jerusalem, and all that. I thought that would be very cool.
Yeah.
And whatever the Hebrew date is. And that way, and then I'm not faking it. Like you see authors saying, preface. So it'll be really true, not like, oh, he just said Jerusalem, but he was there like 5 years ago.
You're right.
So I think I'll do that. And we could even do it tomorrow. So that will help me to say, okay, man, this is it. You're going to love it, I hope. I'm keeping the whole world in mind. It's not big on addressing Muslims, but certainly Christians and Jews. I think I will put 1 or 2 paragraphs on Muslims that the Quran teaches that Jews were given the land. I think I will put that, when I'm talking about God, Torah, Israel, the land, the promises. Like footnote that, because there's really good sources, not from me, but from Muslim scholars. But I'm trying to make it, I've told Russ this and told others, I don't want the old version everybody loves. I mean, everybody's ever read it says, yeah, that changed me, that helped. Many of you have seen it. But I feel like it basically said, go study with the rabbis and maybe find a synagogue.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel too many people tried that, and it might not be right for our group. I mean, if someone wants to do it, they can, of course, and some of you do. And I go to my local synagogue, and Ralph Bunton is a member of Dennis Jones's synagogue. Because they have a non-Jewish membership that's like friends of the temple. But I'm very integrated in the Jewish community. I've spoken at all 3 synagogues. I'm part of a Kavara group. I've spoken there probably 5 times. That's like a home group of Jews. But I would rather propose what the rabbis call it B'nai Noach, light, I guess I'm calling it Lost Tribes B'nai Noach, heavy, and any other human that wants to serve Hashem, meaning the Torah is universal.
Yeah.
So, and therefore it'll really focus on the 10 words. Like what one of the 10 words should like human beings not do? Gentiles could steal, maybe that'd be okay. Lie, kill, commit adultery, and so forth. Most people say, yeah, but the Sabbath, that's Jewish. Until you read Genesis 2. And or even Abraham. So anyway, I think it'll be more helpful to people, and it will have the Shapira scroll in the appendix with footnotes about the major studies, including Allegro and all the ones since, just pretty good bibliography on all that.
Yeah.
So it'll be vastly improved. I'm 78 years old. I'm not expecting to revise it again. I thought it would be out in September 2022. That's when Daniel designed the cover. And then we got to 2023 and the war broke out. And that's occupied my mind just like it has all of you. You can imagine in October. I mean, you remember how there's nothing else on our mind. So I've got my calendar. I have to look for an exact date. Or I could just close my eyes and pick a date. Like it'll come out on September 13th and then look it up and say, oh my God, Tabor, that's Rosh Hashanah or whatever. But we'll see. It'll come out when it comes out.
That's right.
But I think you're going to love it. And it'll be on Amazon and it'll be hardback and ebook. And then I'm going to work with Ross and Seth on turning it into somebody reading it as well. Or maybe I'll just read it. I did read the Jesus Dynasty, but you need an engineer to do that. And I don't have, you need somebody to listen and cut and do that again. And you made a mistake there. I don't know if I can do that. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, just about.
Right.
To read a whole book. And you're going to make 5 mistakes every page. Try reading anything. You'll stumble over a word. You'll have a wrong pause. So Ross you put your voice, you have a voice edition. What do you call it?
It's Audible. And it's so funny you mentioned that because I make like many of you, every year I make a really tight list of what do I want to accomplish, what are my priorities. And one of the things on this year ahead of January 2024 was I wanted to do an audio version of the Moses Scroll. And so I read up on it and I had all these ideas. And lo and behold, one day I logged into my Amazon account and I was, I guess, randomly picked as a beta tester for audiobook. And it said you can pick one of these voices. And they had your typical AI voices, man, woman, English accent, whatever. And so I picked one that I thought I enjoyed the most.
I hope you did the English accent. That's pretty cool.
Well, I don't remember now, but it was funny because I said, well, this is like maybe God's winking and here's what you need and you don't have to work for it. That's usually not the case, but I did. I clicked the button and I listened here and there. And then a few people contacted me and said, hey, listen, I just checked out your Audible book. And every time you give a verse, like it would say Gen 1:1 or whatever the verse reference, it would just read that as something else. So it was kind of, but then I had to go through and you can change it. You can edit it. So I've done that now. And people who've listened and bought it and downloaded it now.
You corrected the whole book. Like anything.
I wouldn't say the whole. I said I went through it sort of, and corrected everything my audience had told me about. But I do need to listen to that. Maybe I'll put that on high speed. But it's funny. I know you know this, James. It's I've listened and read all your books multiple times, but my own, I guess it's just so. I have so much going on right now that I just haven't made a priority of that. But I tell you, it really is good. If you can do it, I know you've mentioned to me several times that making the audio version of your book, The Jesus Dynasty, was very difficult for the reasons you just stated. It really is good for an author to do their own work, if that's possible, but also understand the constraints of your schedule.
Well, see, I know how to edit now, and back then I didn't know. I can edit myself. I edit all my videos. So at least I wouldn't have what happens also is they put the wrong accent on words because they don't know,
Right.
So try saying eschatology. They probably go eschatology, or something like that.
Yep.
So all of that you wouldn't have to correct. Mainly you just correct any stumbles, mispronunciations, halting, spacing, and you would hear it when you play it back, and it's tedious, but you could do it slowly, like an hour a day, just correct, and so I'll probably do it myself.
Good deal.
I
Well,
think.
I know that you're in the old city, and I know from traveling with you many times that you might want to hit the streets and do some
Yeah, I'm
things.
gonna go
But
right now down to the wall, and I think I might write something right now and put it in. I don't know if some people might say, "Oh my God, you do that." It's just a gesture,
yeah,
you know.
well, may you
Once
be
I
inspired and
thank you
do
guys.
something great. And thanks for the
Can you
update,
believe the
James.
miracle of these Zoom meetings? Here I am just sitting here in Jerusalem, and has the feed been okay? I
Oh,
mean, I can hear.
it's been wonderful. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so my internet's good. Okay,
Hey,
everybody have a great week, and let's just hope, let's just say we're in a very troubled time right now.
well,
But
spend some time on that wall and say a few prayers for all of the things that we know we need praying for in this world today.
absolutely. Okay, bye-bye.
All
Bye,
right,
everybody.
James. Shabbat
Love you
shalom.
all. Love you all. Mean
That's
it.
right. It truly is a remarkable time that we live in where we're able to bring people in from the old city of Jerusalem. And they must have pretty good internet at that place he's staying, because especially those of us who've been there, some of those old stone walls aren't conducive to good reception. I've tried to go live many times from the old city, and you have to get out of those stone buildings. It makes it tough to communicate. Look, one thing that I am excited about, though, while I'm waiting on someone to raise their hand to fill us in on some of their great thoughts and insights, either on the lesson today or whatever, is I'm excited, as someone mentioned, I'm thankful that we have Seth to help us. We really are moving things forward. We're doing a step change in both audio and video. And again, this is our first attempt. We don't even have the sun blocked out yet, so we don't have the lighting just right, but it's getting better and better. And this is stuff that I don't know how to do, but the fact that the quality is going to get better and better, so that as we prepare to put out new material, I think you're going to see a real step change in the quality. And one of the things that we want to do, I'm going to go ahead and let you know this, is we want to do interviews with some of our friends who are also Bible scholars and students and authors. And, I watch a lot of my friends who have these YouTube channels, and, maybe they're agnostic, maybe they're atheists. These are acquaintances of mine. But people in the field who are talking to other Bible talking heads, we want to do that. We want to bring people on. We want to have some engaging content where we discuss some of these things. I've been the guest on some of these other people's channels. Well, I want to bring them on our channel and expose you to some of these people. So that's a side thing. What I really love to do is teach. And I'm so thankful that many of you are willing to listen to these classes. But even in that, what Seth and I both want is that it's not just me talking about the Bible. A vital part of this community is community. I want people to come to like this Zoom call and engage in some good discussion, and I think that as we do that, it really helps everyone, because sometimes, I know sometimes people say they have a question and they're scared to ask it, but that's how all of us learn. Hey, Clody, let's see what Clody has for us today. How are you? Shabbat shalom, my friend.
Hi, Shabbat Shalom. I'm very, very happy we started again with this.
Me too.
So I don't have a question, but Carolyn Smith has written her question in the chat, and she's asking for somebody to raise a hand, and I volunteered.
Okay.
So could you please address that? Thank you.
Very good. No, that's the way to do it. It's teamwork. So let's see what Carolyn says. Other than that, our mic isn't working, so hopefully you can straighten that out. You mentioned in the lesson today about Baal being a god of place. Is this not what Cyrus recognized when he sent people and priests back to Jerusalem to rebuild the house of the Lord? Because the god of the place had no house in which to dwell. In a way, Carolyn, that's good insight, because what we find is that in the ancient world, we see that gods, plural, that the people associated gods with a place. An example is the Syrian leader in the book of Kings, where he comes to be healed by the prophet of Israel. And one of the things that he wants to do is he recognizes that the God of that place has produced a great miracle. And so he wants to bring some of the dirt of that place back to his home, you see. And we see that in Carolyn's example of Cyrus. We also see other examples in the Hebrew Bible. Once the northern Israelites are exiled from those territories, the wild beasts are coming. And so there's this idea that you have to send priests who know the land, who are associated with that God, to that place. So this is a big deal in the ancient world, the gods of the lands. And one of the things that we're working on, many of you know about this Northern Prophet series, is in the north and northwest of what is the land of Israel today, around the area of Phoenicia, ancient Phoenicia, Tyre or Tyre, Tyre. We pronounce it Tyre in most English communities I've been part of. You do have Baal, and in fact, we have great discoveries of some of that literature written on cuneiform about Baal being the god of that area. So we do see this. So that's a great question, Carolyn. Now, in the case of Baal of Peor, it is interesting that we only know Baal Peor in this one instance. And I'll try to find the link, but Jono Vandor, some of you might have heard his discussion, partly and mostly prompted by his understanding of the Moses scroll and looking at the Pentateuch references. He associates Baal Peor not so much with the god as with the place, but there does seem to be a connection with this god Baal. By the way, Baal is not just in the Phoenician areas, but it spreads particularly in the days of the monarchy into Israel and Judah. So, for instance, and I see your hand raised, James, one second, we do see that there is intermarriage whenever we see some of the kings who marry into the families, the royal families of Phoenicia. And so you start seeing the mixing in these temples of Baal in Jerusalem. So anyway, widespread belief. And in this new series, as we get settled from all of our things leading up to this move and the move itself, we're going to bring in some of those fundamental beliefs that you might not get if you just read the biblical text. In other words, I've spent quite a bit of time reading these ancient texts, English translations of these ancient texts, the worship of Baal, because I want people to get that view when we teach the class. I want you to know some of the what we might call the Bible of Baal. I want you to hear, like, what's Elijah battling against? He's battling against something that is very real in the minds of the people. And so those are the kind of things that we want to get into. Hopefully that at least somewhat answers your question, Carolyn. Good question, good insight. James Brumgard, how are you, my brother? Shabbat shalom.
Just unmuting my mic.
Good.
Hi. Good Sabbath, everyone. Hey, I have a couple things. One, you read a verse towards the end of the class, or actually a group of verses describing what Moses would see from the top of Pisgah or Mount Nebo, which I'm assuming is really the same place. And it mentions how he could see the whole land, Gilead to Dan. I'm reading in Deuteronomy 34.
Right.
And all of Naphtali and the land of Ephraim and Manasseh and all the land of Judah unto the hindmost sea. Which sea is that? Is that the Mediterranean?
I think that's what's implied there, James. Good question. And I don't want to jump in too early. I want you to finish your question, your thought, and then I'll respond to it. But I don't want to assume. So go ahead. Yeah, I think it is assuming that the reader is to take away that he sees the Mediterranean. Yes.
Well, I was just wondering if there really is an elevation in Jordan that's high enough to see the Med. They can see over the hills of Judea and actually see the Mediterranean. That was my thought there. That there's that. I'm a map guy, a geography guy. So when I read places like that, that should help maybe identify exactly which elevation they're talking about, which hilltop that is, if you can see the Mediterranean from that location. And I don't know the geography of the area at all. I've never been in the Middle East, at least not yet.
Yeah.
So,
well, I hope that you get to come with me one day. And what is interesting about that passage? So the distance is not the problem. From Peor, from Pisgah, from that region east of the Jordan Rift, you can indeed see, let me correct myself, you could see that far, but the conditions seem to never be right. Now, what do I mean by that? So I've talked to people. I remember the first time I went, and you go up to Mount Nebo and you climb there. And what do you want to do? You want to go to the observation point and you want to look across and you want to see the whole land just like Moses did. And you're all excited and you're, yay, I'm going to do it. You get there, and the first time that I went, we went the wrong time of the day, so the sunlight prevented our visibility for very far, and there was also steam or not steam, but
haze.
Haze. Yeah. So anyway, so we said, okay, all right, the rule is sun rises in the east, sets in the west. So you want to figure that piece out. You don't want to be staring into the sun. So we changed the timing the next time, and again, the visibility wasn't good. So one of the people that I talked to smiled and said the miracle of the story is that no one has ever been able to see what Moses saw. You have to be a prophet of Moses' stature to see the whole of the land, and that's just the miracle. Now I've also talked to people who told me, oh man, I saw it. I could see this and I could see that, and and having been there multiple times now, I don't want to call some of these people Pinocchio, but I wonder, because even photographers have gone there to see everything he supposedly saw. But the story remains the same, and the story is what it is. Maybe it was the perfect day. In other words, I'm not trying to be too critical and historical here. If the visibility is right, could you see what the text says that he saw? I think the answer to that could be yes.
Okay.
But I will say, and like you, I'm a map guy. Again, if you look at the map, you're right to point out that between this location of Nebo, Pisgah, and the Mediterranean, there are a lot of mountains. But I think that there are places where you could get a glimpse of it if the sky was just right. So, good question, though. Good question. Hey, and look, I hope one day that we do get to travel together and we can go to that very spot. And with a man of faith like you, and that's what I usually do on the bus. I see some people who've been with me, Sharon and others. I put it on them. I say, look, if you've got faith, I need you to pray for good visibility because we're going to go to Nebo tomorrow. So I think with you it might work.
I don't know about that, but I hope so. But no, I had a couple other thoughts too.
Okay.
That actually one kind of resurged from a previous lesson, talking about Joseph being his brothers conspiring to sell him to the Ishmaelites and then end up that the Midianites buy him. I often, I put in the comments during the class that, I think there was another group because they're seeing the Ishmaelites heading west, southwest towards Egypt to sell their wares. When you go down and sell everything, you come back on another caravan. And I was thinking, well, then maybe the Midianites were going east and got to the pit first and actually pulled Joseph out of the ground before the brothers even had anything to do with it. Because, hey, we found a guy, let's go sell him.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the case or not. The other thing I had on my mind, this Moabite Midianite question, is it similar to perhaps you are named by the place you live, but you also can be named by the religion you keep, like Irishes and Catholic. You're from Ireland, but you're also Catholic. Could the Moabites be also Midianites? Just wondering if there's Midian or really more identified as the Bedouin. I'm just wondering all that.
Well, it's a great question, and when I was preparing this class a couple of years ago now, and even before, as I researched the Pentateuch, this is one of the texts that academics often point to as a high potential for a merging of different sources. And so before I get into that, the answer to your question is yes, I think that there could be a possibility where somebody says, well, they're like if I remember, I still have my dog tags. Seth won't let me wear them when I get on line because they make too much noise, but my old military dog tags. So I was born in Texas, raised in Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, and you could say, well, you're an American, you're, not all Texans, not all Americans are Texans, but some, so you have the different regional names and so forth. But the thing that we see, I was getting to the point that I was Baptist at the time. So my dog tags say I'm Baptist. So you've got these different names and designations for these different groups. And some people will try to explain these seeming contradictions within the text as what you just described. Well, a Midianite may not be, in other words, can a Moabite and a Midianite be from the same people group or maybe from the same region? And the obvious first answer is maybe. But as you look at the text, you start to see that they're distinct people groups. And particularly in Genesis 37, we're exposed to something which shows visible signs to me and many people before me that you've got a merging of different accounts of the same story. The selling of Joseph into Egypt. How does he get there? And it seems that we have a couple of different stories that have survived from antiquity that have been brought together into the form that we now have it, and a final editor sought to smooth that out, and we still have some wrinkles. Does that make sense? You don't have to accept that view, but that is the view of me. It's my view, and I've been convinced by reading it because, again, I don't think that anciently that Midian was a dot on the map. You go, well, they're mention of the land of Midian. But modern biblical maps tend to push that Midian into what is now Saudi Arabia, south and east of the rift. And yet the storyline, as we read the biblical account, we have Midianites all over the place. So what are Midianites doing west of the rift at an area called Dothan, which is in the Jezreel Valley? Because everywhere we see these Midianites, not everywhere, but quite often we see these Midianites are part of traveling caravans and so forth. So they seem to be more like the desert Bedouin tribes, I would say. Hopefully that explains some of that. Now, again, the possibility is there, and people have put forward the example that you just gave, that quite possibly they're just different names for the same people group. I think that articulates what you were saying. But I tend to think that they're different groups and that they came together in the final form of the biblical text of, say, Genesis 37, to where people are forced to make that call. That they have to be in order to fit the narrative.
Well, that makes sense to me. A thought occurred while you were giving your explanation that could be that the land of Midian, if these people are indeed nomadic, as we expect them to possibly are, that it's just the land that they travel through, that they're in different spots at different times. If they have herds, they can maybe overgraze an area and they got to move on.
Yeah.
So it's part of the land that they will reside in from time to time. So
yeah, one more point on that. I have a theory. I don't know if it holds water as well as I'd like it to, but I always test a theory. And because I find that the people, the Midianites, move in the biblical text. They're not like the Jebusites. They're not like, these groups. You can find them on the map. We know where they live. We know where their culture is, archaeologically, historically, textually. The Midianites, not so much. And so one of the things that I remember, I have a friend who's a Bedouin, and I asked him. Now, my Bedouin, my Arabic is I can't speak Arabic. His English is much better than my Arabic, but it's not so good either. So I was asking my friend Muhammad, what does Bedouin mean? Bedouin. He said, it's me. It's me. It means me. I said, no. In Arabic or in Semitic language, what does Bedouin mean? So I've been looking for this answer. He says that finally got the message across to him that the din, Bedouin, that you hear the D and the N, has to do with an ancient Semitic word that means desert. All right? So you've got Bedouin, ba in a lot of Semitic languages, not just Hebrew, but in Semitic languages, ba means in or at. So if you put those together, again, I'm not a linguist, although I study ancient languages. What I was looking for is, can it be that Bedouin means in the desert? So you go, these people are in the desert. Where do they live? They're in the desert. Midian, it has that same DN ending. And again, I'm still testing this theory out to see if I can prove it linguistically. I see the m sound, min, m in Hebrew means from. So could a Midianite be from the desert, just as a Bedouin is in the desert? And it represents more of a migratory people as opposed to what we see as somebody says, well, I want my Sinai to be here in Saudi Arabia, so I'm going to put Midian there. You see how people can make this stuff work. But I think sometimes we make things work that don't really work biblically if you study it throughout the text. All of that hopefully gives you a little bit of a understanding of where I'm coming from, whether you agree with it or not. Todd and Angel, good to see you again.
Shabbat shalom, Ross.
Shabbat shalom. I'm glad to be back, and I'm glad to see you're still with us. After 2 weeks, you didn't wise up and say, I'm out, I can't go back. You're still here.
I bet you're one tired little puppy, ain't you?
Between me and Seth, we're two tired puppies, but we're going to live. We're going to be living and happy for it, I hope.
There you go. This is a little off topic of what we're talking about, but we've been writing down questions and ideas and stuff last couple of weeks. And one of the things that's, because I've been listening to you on Spotify too, and just something that kind of hit me last week was, with all the trouble with Israel being able to obey the Ten Commandments, then why would he give so many laws in the Torah? Because I know that we've talked about what really was in Torah, what was added in.
Yeah.
But if they couldn't even do the 10, why would you have a list of 613 laws?
Yeah.
That just kind of makes you scratch your head.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just saying, because he said, I gave 10 and no more.
That's true. It does say that in Deuteronomy, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And he spoke no more. Wow. Well, I tell you, my view, and certainly this is not the consensus view, and absolutely not the consensus view among fundamentalists, that my view does not equal fundamentalism anymore. And I don't apologize for that, because I arrived at it from reading the biblical text. But I do see that as far as the communication of divine law, it does seem to be foundational are these 10. Now, that doesn't mean that these other laws can't be inspired, authoritative, or just plain good for us. I'm not suggesting that at all. But it does seem to me, and I'm going to get into this very much so in the Deuteronomy study. I want to keep pitching that, because I know that some people might say, well, Ross, I've already heard everything that you've had to say. This Deuteronomy thing is going to be a fresh, new look at from beginning to end of Deuteronomy, because I believe that Deuteronomy shows us not only an early form of where that divine law began, but I think it has telltale signs of later additions, even though, oddly enough, Deuteronomy is the only book of the Pentateuch which in two places, Deuteronomy 4:2, Deuteronomy 12:32 or 13:1, depending on if you're looking at an English or Hebrew Bible, that says don't add to or take away from. And I think both of those things happened. In the book that says don't add to or take away from is our best evidence that adding to and taking away happened. Now, you mentioned 613, just so that people know, in Judaism, it's taught that there are 613 commandments. I hear this repeated all the time. I said it, I can't tell you how many times in my own teaching. But I would encourage people you can look this up. Google is a fantastic tool that we have today. And look up, where do we get the 613? And it's not as people suppose that you begin in Genesis 1 and you just start reading, and then you see a commandment, you go, oh, there's number 1, there's number 2, there's number 3. It's much more Judaic in its approach. So, for instance, there can be a repetition of a certain command numerous times with different associations, with different interpretations and so forth. So how many laws are there? Well, I don't know. But to your point, and I say I don't know because I've not personally counted, but what we do have is we have a lot of commands, as all of you know, that some of which deal with that are for women, some are for priests, some are for men only, some and so forth. So how many commands are there that we could actually do today? That becomes the question. And then, to me, a more important question is, what can we trace back to divine law? And you've raised the question that I've thought about, and I suppose many others have thought about. If at Horeb God speaks audibly to the entire nation, what is it that he communicates to them? And it's these 10 words. And like you said, and then he says, and he spoke no more, or he added nothing, as some translations will say. That's important to me. And then I have to question, which version is it? Is it Exodus 20? Is it Deuteronomy 5? Is it Exodus 34? Is it, is it Leviticus 19? Which one of these versions? And then if we look at that, Jonah and I did a series on the 10 words where we went through the versions of the Samaritan Pentateuch. What about the Samaritan Pentateuch? It doesn't agree with the canonical Masoretic text. So we have all these questions. And by the way, a friend, someone who I've known for decades, actually posted on one of my YouTube videos the other day, that he's fed up with this. He is fed up with wherever Ross is going. Like, even though I say I'm digging to discover the truth or whatever, he's ready to drive stakes in the ground. He's tired of challenging anything. Now, the same person ditched Christianity, threw that away like a dirty dish towel, and yet he now says, I'm going to latch on to, the view where I'm at right now. What's his view now? The Masoretic text of the Hebrew Bible is his new fundamentalism. And if you have questions about those texts, he's not willing to entertain them. So but what I'm so happy about is that we have a group of people here, for the most part, who are willing to challenge some things and to look at these ancient sources and say, how can we get back to the earliest and the most authentic version of the faith? I like in the New Testament where, I think it's in the book of Jude, where it talks about the faith once for all delivered. What is that? That's what. This is a tough road, I think. I think that's one of the things that we learn with this is it's difficult to challenge things that we've grown up with.
It is, yeah. And you struggle with it, but at the same time, I think it grows your faith doing it. I mean, everybody says, well, eventually you're going to toss this out and toss that out, and you're just going to leave all together and everything. I think it strengthens you.
Yeah.
Because you want to know answers. Unfortunately, we don't have them. But, you're always wanting to know something. And one of the things that we were talking about the other day was and it's brief, but the commandment of wearing seat. Right. And which, I wear them. Right. I keep them short because I don't want to catch them on machinery at the shop or anything. But right. But then we started thinking about that. It's like, well, if Israel saw the sacrifices that Egypt was doing, maybe that's carried over and that's what was put in the Torah. But at the same time with seats, the Egyptian priests used to wear tassels. Yep. So it kind of makes me wonder, did that carry over into the Torah? Because it's what they knew. And, in Christianity, they're always trying to put Jesus in with any kind of pagan holiday they can think of to make it, churchy. Yeah. And it kind of makes me wonder about the tassels. Yeah, there you go. About the tassels, tradition, they have the 10-5-6-5, you go, Yod-Heh, Vav-Heh in blue wrapped around in tradition in the tassels. But my question about that is, if it's his command to begin with, why are you putting his name on it? Yeah. You're supposed to have a string of blue that runs through it, according to the text. But why would you make that his? Is it possible it wasn't his to begin with?
Well,
I don't know.
that very question, frankly, scares some people. Whereas, but I'll tell you, even though the stories of the biblical, I remember at one point I thought that circumcision was something that was exclusive to the Israelites. That when God introduces the idea in Genesis chapter 17 to Abram at the time, I thought that's the beginning of the circumcision story. And then you fast forward and you hear David, who is this uncircumcised Philistine? And it's like, so I thought that in the ancient world that Israel that's where that begins, that circumcision of the flesh, as we say, begins there. But what I find interesting now is that the same Bible tells me that that's not the case. We know that ancient Egypt circumcised, and we have pictures of it. PG-13, by the way, but we have pictures of it on Egyptian temple walls. They're actually doing circumcision there. So the question is, now, what does that mean? I mean, people go, well, circumcision, we now know it's good for you, and it's, there are all these people get real up in arms about it. I'm not saying none of that is that any of that is untrue. My point, and people have even pointed out, did you know that a certain vitamin, I think, what is it, vitamin K for blotting, develops on the 8th day of a child, and so, that makes it, look, I'm not questioning any of that. My question from a critical historical point of view is, if it didn't originate in Israel, with Israel, then is it a bad thing that it came from Egypt? And if it came from Egypt, did God communicate to his people that he wants them to do these same things? Circumcision is just one example. What about tzitzit? What about these fringes? Do we have evidence that other ancient people groups wore these fringes for similar reasons? What are those reasons? According to Numbers chapter 15, verse 37 through 41, it's that it's going to be a visible reminder. You'll look upon these fringes and you're not going to wonder lustfully about the land, remember, I just taught this the other day when we were doing the spies story, that the Hebrew word there is that your eyes won't wander, W-A-N-D-E-R, after like the people wandered in the touring of the land.
Yeah.
Deuteronomy 22 doesn't give anything like that. Doesn't even mention a blue cord. It just says you're going to put 4 fringes on your garments. Done. Deuteronomy 22 doesn't have the same view that we see in Leviticus 15. Now, is it a bad thing? Let me tell you what's a good thing about wearing fringes. Number one, if you love the Bible like I do, you have at least 2 passages in the Pentateuch which say, wear fringes. Numbers 15, 37 through 41, and Deuteronomy 22, was it verse 12, I think? So you've got that. You think it is a good way to recall the commandments of God. There are a lot of things that come to my mind as to when that would be helpful. Like all day, every day. A man who wears fringes, some women wear fringes, it reminds them of living a holy life according to the commandments. But the question becomes, did that originate? Is that one of the earliest tiers of the Bible as we have it, or did it come in later? And that's the question I think we have to, one of the questions that we have to really answer. Same with circumcision. Deuteronomy tells us the only circumcision mentioned in Deuteronomy 10 and Deuteronomy 30 is circumcision of the heart. Well, that's for men and women. And Deuteronomy knows nothing, or it mentions nothing about circumcision any other way. Oddly enough, we have this weird story in Exodus 4 where Moses didn't circumcise his own son. What? I mean, really?
Well, yeah, you're right.
What is that about? His wife, this Midianite, has to do it. And then who's trying to kill who? Is the angel going to kill the boy? Is the angel going to kill Moses? It's unclear. We don't know. It's just this little story about 4 or 5 verses long that's stuck in the middle of it. And then we find out, shock of all shocks, that this command that you've got to circumcise wasn't done during the whole 40 years in the wilderness. What's that about? Weird stuff.
Not only that, but his wife turns right around and basically, I guess, blesses him out, basically.
Yeah.
After she does it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Tzipporah, that's an odd and interesting story. Look, a lot of these things, though, that when we compare these texts as we get into this new study of Deuteronomy, and really we've been looking at the Pentateuch very carefully over the last several years. So, by the way, again, thanks everyone for not ditching me, because I don't want people to feel like they have to put their hand on a Bible and say, I believe this book the way Ross explains it. I enjoy the debate. I enjoy the discussion. I want people who stick with me and say, now, Ross, that's too far. This is what I believe, and this is the verse, and then we can have dialogue about it. That's the whole reason we do the Zoom call. It's the whole reason that we have the dialogue session. I got a letter the other day. It looks like this person, I don't see him on today, but I get a lot of people who leave. But I guess you might say, well, you certainly earn it, Ross. But this person said this. I got 2 of these in 1 week. This person wrote me personally and said, I can't go with you anymore because you no longer. What he's really saying is you no longer believe like I believe. Well, I don't want that. I want these people to stay. Like if I was looking for only people to hang around and discuss the Bible with who believe exactly like me, well, one, that's going to be impossible. I'm never going to find that. And number 2, I don't want that. I remember reading General Patton once said, iron sharpens iron. General Patton once said, if I have 2 generals that agree, I don't need but one of you.
Yeah.
And that is so true. Look, I want people to offer rebuttals. I want people to offer other viewpoints and challenge what I'm saying. I'm not claiming to have the whole truth, nothing but the truth, but by God, I'm looking. And so I enjoy, Todd, when you or others come in and you say, or Angel, and you say, look, what about this? Have you considered this? Because you know what? The most learning that most progress I've ever made in my understanding is never been when someone agreed with me. It's always when someone says, hey, have you ever thought about this? I don't agree with this. And what I usually do is I go, let me think about that. Sometimes I get mad. Sometimes I go away and get quiet. But you know what I always do? I always eventually will come around and say, okay, God, you heard what Todd said on that Zoom call. It upset me, but is there anything to that? And you know what? A lot of times there is.
Interesting. Yeah, unfortunately, like what you're talking about, you definitely can't get that in church because they're going to tell you what to think and that's it.
Yeah.
And I done learned my lesson. What happens when you start questioning the preacher? It was always in private to the side. I never did. Because we used to have Sunday school in the sanctuary because it was a small church.
Yeah.
So we had Sunday school in the sanctuary before the service started and everything like that too. So, he'd always, anybody have any questions before we start the Sunday school? And of course, everybody turn around and look at us.
Yeah.
But because we always had a question, and almost every single
Usually
time,
me.
usually her, and most of the time we would stump them.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't that hard of a question. It's just that seminary has taught him to believe this, and therefore he can't think another way.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember me and him going around and around about the sons of God. I mean, he swore up and down, it's Seth.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what seminary teaches you.
Right.
I mean, have you ever thought of a different way? No, there is no other way.
It's funny
Okay.
you bring that up, because that just came out as a comment on the Discord on Horeb the other day. Someone brought that very thing up, and they said, this is talking about Seth, and whoever was writing, I don't remember now, was very matter of fact, and they had it all laid out, and that was their view, and this is the view, and Clody, I saw, responded to that with a very respectful response that basically said, well, what do you do with this? And see, that's what, like, I don't want to be part of, personally, I don't want to be part of a group that toes the party line and claims to have it all figured out. Well, first, I just don't believe that anymore. Like, I'm telling you, and I'm not the brightest guy, but I'm saying, if I haven't figured out every detail of this yet, I don't think the next 50 years is going to make a big difference. I don't think I'm going to figure it all out then either. So when somebody comes in with the approach that I got the whole truth, nothing but the truth, I don't say thou lie, but that's certainly what I think, because it's just, I just don't buy it.
Yeah.
And, but what I love is where we can come together and discuss these things. I learn every time I'm with this group, because someone will say, I have a notepad and I take notes. And, I just pick up bits and pieces, and it's something that might just spur a thought. And I don't know. By the way, I want to say, one of the things I just wrote down was, you said you listen on Spotify. That's good to know, because we don't have really good data to tell. Like, I don't know who listens or how many. It's not really that helpful to look at the analytics. But I have to believe that the effort we go to put the classes on audio, that someone is listening to it. And that makes it worthwhile to know that someone is. So, because
I don't spend a whole lot of time driving. I only live 4 miles from the shop, but
right.
That's pretty much what I do. I just leave it on Spotify and just let it play the whole week while I'm driving, going here, maybe picking something up or whatever. And that's just how I listen. But just listening to it, I make sure I keep a pad or something with me, because I'm always like, hey, that's a good idea. Write it down while I'm driving. But I guess safer in texting. But it's I definitely listen. We were listening to it yesterday while we were prepping in the kitchen for Shabbat and everything. So I just let it play, whatever. But even the one that played yesterday, which was the first episode you and Jono did about the Moses scroll, and we were hearing things that we didn't catch the first time.
Yeah.
We were kind of like, oh, okay.
Yep.
So it's, I'm in the same boat as you. I ain't the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I do give the spoon a run for its money.
Yeah.
But
Speaking of Jono and what we've done, we've put out a lot of material on the Moses scroll, and Seth is. I really benefit from our working relationship. Seth has an idea. He said, you put out a lot of material on this. Why don't you do a series on the objections? Like, what are the possibilities? Like, because you go through a list, and even Shapira had reasons to reject it as a forgery. But, we've kind of we didn't show the math and go through all of those. So what are some of the best arguments for forgery of this manuscript? And he said, you ought to do a series on that. You can clearly rebut. You can say, here's why we don't think this theory is true, but it's certainly being fair, and giving a critical view of the Moses scroll. And
That's a good
so,
idea.
yeah, I think it is too. And I think one of the things that excited me about this is when I first was exposed to the Moses scroll, the whole thing was it was dismissed as a forgery. And so I went through that process where I said, but they didn't know this, they didn't know this, they did, and so I introduced all of these examples to it, which made me think, my God, I think it's real. But now maybe it is time to go back in that sense and look at that. So, that might be coming. I haven't talked to Jono about that even, but it's certainly fun.
That would definitely be interesting to see.
All right.
That's all I got.
Hey, it's good. It's good to have you. We'll bring other people up on the stage then. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for letting me know that at least one person has listened to our Spotify feed. Seth just uploaded several classes, several new podcasts. So we're on Spotify. We're also on Apple Podcasts for people who might want to do that. Some people work out, some people commute. And it's an easy way you can listen to that, and one thing more, Todd, is I use my phone a lot now. If I'm driving or whatever and I can't type it, but if a thought hits me, I'll say, "Hey Siri, make me a note to investigate Deuteronomy chapter whatever and Numbers chapter whatever," because I don't want to think that I'm getting older and I forget things. But, I do sometimes walk into a room and say, what in the hell was I coming in here for? So I do that with my phone now, and it helps me. So maybe some of you might want to try that too.
Or like me, you're looking for a tool in the shop and you realize you're holding it in your hand.
Yeah. Have your glasses on your head and say, where are my glasses? Yeah, all those fun things. All right. Hey, thanks, guys. Good deal. Hello, Elisheva. How are you, my friend?
Hey, Ross, I'm good. Shabbat Shalom, and thank you so much for all of this. I've been, we've been friends for a long time.
Yes, we have.
You have challenged me and my faith in so many ways. Not my faith, but my beliefs. When I thought I knew everything, I've also passed a mirror, by the way, looking for my glasses, and they were on my face.
That's right.
I'm not immune to any of that. But to depart a little bit from what we're talking about,
sure.
I feel like I need to be Nikita for a minute and give praise to the Most High.
Yep.
Because I want to thank all of you, or any of you who have prayed for me, because I have had a hard time.
Yeah.
Since my husband died, and then I had a recent death, someone very close in my family, and it kind of threw me for a loop. It had nothing to do with my losing my faith. It's just sometimes grief comes into your heart and it takes you over.
Yep.
And so I've been working through that. But every Shabbat, it's like a respite. It really is an island in time. And that's the way it was yesterday for me. As I set my table early, and a friend called me and invited me over. And it was like 4:30. And I thought, I don't have time to go.
Yeah.
But this friend, her husband had read my book and had lots of questions. And every time I come over, he has all these questions, about God and faith. And so I thought, well, okay, I have my table set. I have my food kind of in my mind, sort of prepared. I'm just going to go. So I went at 5:00 and stayed till 5:30. And we had a wonderful conversation. It feels so good just to be able to share.
I agree.
The goodness of God and all that he does for us. And then I had a surprise call. My daughter called and asked if she said her little boy, her 10-year-old, had a present for me. So he came by and gave me a bunch of flowers.
Oh, nice.
He never does that. He's 10 years old. I mean, and I needed those flowers
Yeah.
this shot. I really did. So when I came home, I added the flowers to the table and, did the candles and all that. And then Dave and Patty came on, and it was such a blessing. And I went to sleep last night really thinking of all of my blessings in the midst of all this sorrow that I'm going through.
Yeah.
And the blessings outweighed it. I can't explain it. And I woke up this morning, and usually when I wake up, I say the Shema first thing. And I say there are some traditional blessings in the Siddur that are just beautiful. We just thank God for our lives and all that he does for us, etc. And I did that. And then I remembered a song that my little daughter used to love, and it's called Morning Has Broken. I don't know if you remember that, by Cat Stevens. And I remembered the song, and I turned it on, and I started crying.
Yeah.
It's all about every morning is like a new day. And the morning is broken, and it's a new day. And I just feel like maybe the fog is clearing from my brain. And I know I'm going to be okay. I may still be broken, but there's a way for me to go ahead.
Right.
And I just want to praise Hashem, the Most High, Yud He Vav He. And I just want to thank all of you who have prayed for me, because it's such a blessing to be a part of this group.
I agree.
The challenges have been difficult because I feel like I've had to rethink some things. And when you're not clear-headed, it's hard. And sometimes I've just closed my Bible and thought, okay, I can't do this right now.
Yeah.
But then it comes back. And I just wanted to tell you that. I just wanted to tell you thank you. And I hope this wasn't too personal or too emotional.
Oh, no.
To be that way.
Well, I just to say, I think that most of this group, we have a large group now, a larger group, but I think all of us know each other as much as we allow ourselves to be known in this group. And, it's as one person, one member needs prayer and lifting up, that this group is here for that. And I mean, I certainly have had many people reach out and tell me that they're thinking about me and they're praying for me. And I know that we do that with one another. And it really means a lot. I see Nikita's name. She's written me several personal notes. Others have as well. But it does make you feel good to know that that we have other people who are thinking of us, and
Absolutely.
especially,
it does.
Yeah, especially there are times where all of us are going through struggles, and it's not something that we necessarily want everybody to know,
Right.
But at the same time, it's good to know that we have friends who are also believers, and just so I know what you just said. There are times where I'll communicate something in a class that I know is going to be difficult for people. It's always out of truth and love. I remember J.H. Hertz in the Hertz commentary. He was talking about this passage, which is repeated so many times in the Hebrew Bible, in Exodus 34. It's a comment on Exodus 34. I could really pull it off the shelf, but here's the gist of it. It talks about how loving kindness and truth are presented as attributes of God in that order. And this is rabbinic, but even though I'm a Bible guy, Betty, maybe more than others, that I have respect for, quite a bit that the rabbis come up with some beautiful things. And in Hertz's commentary, he said, we should always communicate the truth. Like what people often will say is, Ross, why would you even get into this? Well, what are you And for me to use David and Patty's slogan, the truth matters. To me, the truth matters. And, you know, I've never used that phrase, but they've used it, and they've even taught a class by that title. But the truth matters. But here's what Hertz said. Always, always communicate the truth. But he said, but always do it in love. So
Absolutely.
we want people, like I want people to know, what do we know from a critical, historical, textual standpoint? What do we know from archaeology? Does it support this? Does it not? You know, are these things challenging? You know, yes, they're challenging, but I want people to know that in love, you know, it's not like I'm not doing this from hey, let me show you where there's a problem in the text. You know, just to be mean or to be hateful or spiteful. It's a quest for truth, but it's a quest for truth and the love that has fueled my quest for more than 50 years now.
Right.
You know, I people that have been here know that in that cabinet, I'm looking at it, you can't see it yet, but it's a Torah scroll that is very valuable to me. But you know what's even more valuable to me than that? Now, nobody throw anything at the screen. It's my little King James Bible that I got the Christmas of 1972. What? You mean to tell me that a little King James Bible is more important to you than that Torah scroll? Yeah, I do.
Well, it's personal.
It's personal. I have markings in that Bible from when I was a little boy, you know, because here's the thing. Now, look, I know a lot of people just said, oh, blasphemy. You know, no, I'm telling you right now that we as a group are where we are because we've committed ourselves to a quest. Betty, I mean, I know you better than most of the people I know you better than I know most of these people because we've been together so long. But your sincerity, your quest, even in the darkest of times, is an inspiration. And, you know, I've had people tell me I have to put you away for a little while, Ross. People, they'll listen for a few weeks and then they say, that's it, I'm done with this guy. And then they come back and they listen a little bit more. I know people have to take me in doses. The only person who couldn't get away from me is my wife. And she needs a break from time to time.
Bless her heart.
Bless her heart. Pray for Bridget, you know, because she's the only one that can't turn me off every once in a while, you know, and just get away. Right. So the rest of you are lucky not to have to deal with me.
I really haven't turned you off either, Ross. And I don't see that ever happening. I know you. I feel like I know you very well. We've been friends for 30 years or close to?
Probably something like that.
But, you know, to end my little personal thing, everything topped off with my brother from Jerusalem.
Oh, yeah.
And it just, I love him so much. And his smile, I just love it.
Yeah.
And he told that precious story about my husband, and that's just who Roger was.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Loving kindness. He could be his nickname.
Yeah.
Anyway, I need to get off now because I can't talk.
Well, have a beautiful rest of Shabbat. Always thank you for sharing. You. And we'll see you next time you show up. I know you might go get a sip of water and raise your hand again. That's fine too.
Probably not today.
All right, Betty.
But thank you. I love you and love you all.
All right.
Thanks.
And now we have Miriam. Miriam, I hope that everything works fine. I see you've unmuted. How are you, my sister?
Shabbat Shalom, can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly clear. It's good to hear your voice, Miriam. How are you?
Oh, I'm so happy. Last night, it didn't work to try to talk to our Sabbath gathering people, but I am so happy to be here again as well today to receive God's blessings and His words and grace and growth. And we need it to be a part of the kingdom, because I think that's something He really wants in His children, to grow, not just stagnant and die.
Yeah.
And you're going to get it here at United Israel World Union. But I sympathize with Betty Ellis Sheva, my sweet dear sister. She's in my heart. I keep up with the book she wrote, Hidden Sparks Beneath the Surface. And it talks about this month, and it's a sad month, Tammuz, and it brings more sadness to people than anything. And we should consider everybody that don't have this book to get it, because
Yep.
it really informs you on various parts of the year what can be possible. And the possibilities do happen. Yahweh works in mysterious ways, and don't question it. But the moral of the story is she has been suffering a loss, and I feel a loss. I suffered a mother after 52 years in February. I was 16. She was 37, 36. And then all these years later, an aunt, her sister, next sister, kind of took me and was a second mother to me. And she died, my mother, February 13th. She went the 14th.
Oh, man.
I was just getting over 52 years of mourning. And then this happened. Okay, I plowed through the month of February and went to the conference, and I was rejuvenated, and I thank Yahweh for that first time of meeting everybody. It changed my life. We all should consider gathering. It's so needed. It's great online, but it's good to meet in personal fellowship.
Amen.
And I never did that all these years, but always was right there when Rosalind posted all the live viewings of wherever in Israel, and that grasped me. I knew there was growth here, and I've been hanging on for dear life and never letting go.
Amen.
Okay. And I thank you guys for all that. This great fellowship, some has come and gone, but I thank God for what we have now, even better, more loving people, and they're holding on. And that's the catch. Hold on to Yahweh's tzitzits and don't let go.
Well,
That's the key.
I'm glad you didn't let go, and it's like you said, I know you've been with us for all these years, and that's what I really appreciate is, obviously, I love to see new people come in, but it's people that have stayed with us through all this time that realize that we're not pushing. You have to believe everything, like James is working on things that I'm not studying, and I'm working on things that he's currently not. Look, we're all unique in this walk, and that's what makes this group so fantastic, is that you each bring a piece to the table, and that's what I want people to see, is what you just described, Miriam. Look, we would love to meet face-to-face every week, but unfortunately, many of us live a long way apart. So we try to bring our studies to people wherever they are and minister in whatever way we can to everyone wherever they are, and not only geographically, but spiritually. And I know in this crowd, because I know some of the names, we have Christians, we have Jews, we have people who are somewhere in between, we have people who are not at all affiliated with any group. but this group, and this group is unique, and I am so thankful that you're here with us, Miriam. And look, I'm glad that your audio came across so clearly, because last night I couldn't make it out. I could just hear every so often, and I knew that you had a burden, so we just prayed. Dave and Patty and I talked about it afterwards, and we just prayed for you, and to hear the story of not only losing your mom, but the woman who was like another mom to you. Those things, we truly pray that you have some sort of peace, and so we're happy that you shared that with us, even though it's a heavy thing for you.
And I'm not a person that does a lot of posting about personal things.
Yeah.
You know, be private to myself. I don't have a big family, and so you guys are my family.
Amen.
And I did go through some trauma on, well, the hurricane Beryl hit us on the 8th. Some people are still out of power, and it's sad and traumatic to have to know that and hear it on the news. And that's praying too. That's why I say this is a sad month for not just believers, but perhaps even unbelievers.
Yeah.
You know, the calendars and the scriptures, they are pretty accurate. But on the 8th, Beryl hit. On the 10th, a neighbor of mine right next door, because we have like bungalows in a sense, a section 2 connected here, 2 in the back, nothing upstairs. But I'm right next door to this person that had a friend across when I first moved here 5 years ago. I'm disabled, y'all know that.
Yeah.
And I have been since 93. But some people are set in their ways, and, you know, somehow I'm just going to be real in life. You know, some races are not easily accepted and, you know, loved and received.
Yeah.
I feel that. I felt that many years, maybe not all my life. And I came and started parking in a handicap, and that was the wrong thing to do. And I got 2 enemies, or I would say 2 people that I felt was my enemies. I can't speak for them, but you get the evil eye, you get the words, you know, say it in another language, mainly Hispanic, because I don't speak it. And you walk out the door and people turn around. It's like a shunning thing. I can live with that. But at the Clear Blue, this woman, she's next door, she decides to take her life.
Oh, man.
On 10th at 11 a.m., I was sitting in here and I heard it. Well, experiencing that same experience when I was 16 with my own father losing his life to gun violence. You know, my mom had already been gone, and so here we are with him in a new family, and there were his demise. And we suffered all that, me and my 3 sisters. But the thing is, that never got away from me. I've always remembered that experience, that what I saw, crime scenes, we had to be exposed to. And here, then it happened on the 10th of this month. Well, that's a couple of weeks ago. And I miss y'all so much. I understand the process, you know, and I know, like I wrote earlier, prayer changes things, and that's all I've been doing. And it's been hard, but when you don't have your family, not mine from Beaumont, where you know the area,
Yeah.
the geography of it. I'm from Beaumont, Texas, but I live in Houston. And well, when I left there, I have no family no more because, well, like a black sheep, I guess.
Welcome to the fold, though. You know, and when I hear you say
That's why I've been here. I love it.
It's like a whole flock of black sheep in here. This is
Amen. Amen. And so I first time was able to try to talk with somebody, and I couldn't get through last night, but I heard Dave say, "We will be praying for you."
yeah.
And I understood it was broken up. Well, Yahweh has healed today and let me be able to take this out of my heart and put it onto my family and let them all know we have a foundation we cannot never give up on.
Amen.
Yahweh, United Israel, it is a everlasting thing to me. And I thank you all. I thank Yahweh for bringing me here, because I left for ministry as a minister, teaching and assistant and all kind of authority. And that's what I've been shunned about, and people think something went wrong with me. Even the last church, which was a good sized church I was with, pastor's assistant, wife, prayer partner, in the finances. I had it all. And Yahweh told me leave. And I couldn't understand it, and it was hard. But I never looked back.
Yeah.
I wasn't like Lot's wife and left it, and that was my family, and went back. Once I left that place, and that was over 18 years ago, I never went back. But I still have family there, and we communicate here and there on the phone. But I see your faces and connect with you more than I have in all these years. And so when you connect and you feel it in your heart, I advise, that's Yahweh saying, don't let go. Don't let go. But I was not intending on asking about this. Now I have one last little burning question.
All right.
And I thank everybody for their patience. The Midianites, they were to me kind of pivotal in Yahweh's long range plan.
Yep.
With Joseph, which he had a great rise based on the Midianites bringing him out of death and bringing him in a position. Yahweh's will had been done. Okay, with Moshe and with the Midianites, he connected himself to as through marriage, Sephora. Again in time, and we've talked about them today in probably modern time. They are the better ones, okay? Nevertheless, my question is, last question.
Yep.
Were they good traders? Were they I know possibly nomadic traders? Were they fair or cutthroat people that Yahweh used? I never could really get an understanding. Just curious about their nature of how they did things as these people. It seems it was kind of fair to me, but I wasn't sure.
Well, you bring up an excellent point, and I'll just put it this way. You know, people are people. Anciently, modern, you have prejudiced people, and unfortunately, some of them have had pens and they've written things. So some people, the view of the Midianites, it depends on what you read. But I'll tell you this: you bring up the most important parts where, if you think about the execution of God's plan, the execution of God's plan, according to the Bible, does not happen if Joseph doesn't go to Egypt. And if the Midianites are involved on taking Joseph into Egypt, then that means that God is using Midianite people to put his people in a place where he's going to build them into a nation through adversity. And how many times later does God say to the children of Israel, hey, you know the heart of a stranger. You were slaves in Egypt. So then, as you point out, Moses is involved. He's basically rescued, falls in love with a Midianite girl, Zipporah, at the well. She brings Moses to the priest of Midian. It's in the land, the grazing land of Midian, where God's mountain is. So how important are the Midianites? I think they're the most important people. Get this. They're the most important people in the biblical story. They ensure that Israel goes. You go, what about Israel? Okay. But Israel, the plan of Israel doesn't even happen if you take out Midian from the story. Midian puts them in Egypt. Midian brings them out of Egypt. It's in this mountain, Moses says, in Midian's western grazing land. In other words, I don't think you can underemphasize the importance of Midian. And some believe that Zipporah is also known as the Cushite. People debate this, but you have to consider the story. So who is this group of people? Well, they're the most important people in the biblical story. Could be. So, by the way, the name of God is communicated at this mountain of God when Moses is with the Midianite priest and living among the Midianites. So, the name of God, according to Exodus 3, Exodus 6, verses 1 through 3, the name Jehovah, get ready. I know some of you have heard this if you've listened to me for any period of time. The name Jehovah was not known to the Hebrews prior to Exodus chapter 6. So that's another question. Where did that come from? And we know, by the way, that some of these desert nomadic tribes and peoples anciently referred to God by a form of the Tetragrammaton, Yahu, among some of these desert groups. So your question, you're on it, Miriam. You're on it. By that I mean you are zeroed in on some of the most important people in the biblical text. So we just have to keep digging, and we're going to find it together. So thanks for sticking it out with us. And by the way, Shabbat Shalom. I'm glad you came back on this morning and were able to share some of those thoughts. And we're still praying for you. So you reach out. You know our number, and you can hit us up. Shabbat Shalom, Miriam.
Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Hey, Clody. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So
Okay.
now you're back, and you've got some good insight for us. You're not just speaking on behalf of our friend Carolyn in France. Now you're ready.
I've got something. First, I wanted to ask or be sure that the Midianites are those that came from Abraham and Keturah, right?
Yes, according to Genesis chapter 25,
Yes.
that's where the family at least traces back to, according to Genesis 25's genealogy.
Talking about Abrahamic seed.
Yeah.
I just wanted to thank Miriam and Betty because they really grow our souls. They make us wiser, and I feel whenever I hear something personal, I feel like I'm part of a human family.
Yes.
Yeah, and I believe that we have to love each other as ourselves, and also I wanted to point out what Dave told us yesterday, that God really has big patience on humans. And so I think that we have to be very patient with ourselves during during difficult times. And also, we have to be patient with each other or other fanatics.
Yeah.
People that appear to be very closed-minded, but perhaps they will not be in the future. So we have to be very grown up.
Yeah.
We have to be like the grown-ups, that they really wait, and they have big patience with the kids or the teens or the youth. So we have to be the grown-ups, and we have to wait. And it is very easy to go and bully people or to make jokes about their closed-mindedness, but I don't think that's the way we should do it. We should wait.
Yeah.
We should wait, because some of the most passionate people became God's friends, just like Moses. He was so passionate that he killed the Egyptian. But then he became one of the most important people of
Yep.
Israel's path.
Sure.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. And I want to say I agree with that that idea that, you know, someone who might be new to the group may have listened to Miriam's comments and thought, wow, that's personal. And it is personal. But I think in this group, people, because we know one another a lot, and we welcome new people to come in if you have things to share. You, at least from my standpoint, I would certainly encourage all of us to be, as you say, very patient and not to be a bully. You know, I'm reminded of Ezekiel 34. If you read Ezekiel 34, it's very condemning of those who would be bullies, and whether matters of faith or other things. And I'm very humbled when someone shares something very personal, like we hear from time to time in this group. And I would just encourage people to respect that, you know. So thank you, Clody, for your comments. And we have Gibson. Yeah. How are you? Shabbat Shalom. You just have to unmute. Can we hear you? Testing the microphone. I see the hand raised. So I'm going to, yeah, I see you unmute. If you try it, keep trying. And if you, I'll go to the next person. And if it works, you just jump right in. Can I come back to you? Okay. So, Charles Sutton, you're next. How are you, my brother?
Pretty good. Glad you made it back. I'm getting tired of binge watching Tovia Singer.
Oh man, I didn't mean to put you through that.
He's a pretty smart guy. I like him.
That's
anyway,
right.
It's good to see all y'all back. Missed you.
It's good to be back. And let me just say, real quick, Charles, if I might, I saw a comment from Ramon, and she asked, "Hey, is this place permanent? Is this like a permanent home?" I never say permanent. We don't own it. We rent it. But this is station number, I think 4. I held up 5 fingers and said 4. I think it's station 4. We started off at the Temple Sinai Synagogue. We moved to a little building in town in St. Francisville. Then we got the bigger place across. Many of you have seen that one. And now we are in a neighboring town in Jackson, in this historic building, which we love. And so I won't say permanent, but it is live from Jackson, Louisiana, JJ says. That's right. So we're excited to be here. Look, I promise you, it hurt me worse than it hurt you to not be on the microphone. But I'm excited because one thing that happened, not only were we moving, but we just couldn't quite get everything unpacked, unboxed, and tuned. Seth has rebuilt on his own money. I say his own money. We didn't use United Israel funds for this, for the microphone, for any of this. We upgraded. We had to do it this way, but we're happy because now the computer is rebuilt. It's faster. It's better. It's like for those of you who grew up in the 70s, like the Bionic Man. This computer, I think, is Seth put it this way: we're planning ahead. Like we're putting more into everything technologically than we need. The old microphone worked fine, but thanks to some contributions that came in to Seth and I, we were able to do that. And so we're back, but it did. We didn't want to just take a couple of weeks off. We had to. So now I think we're ready to roll things out. Still have work to do, but. So, Charles, I see, just like I told Todd and Angel, you didn't give up on us either. You're back. You waited. You were fed up. You had to listen to Tovia Singer. I'm sorry. Now you're back.
He's all right. He's all right. He's only wrong about a couple hundred things. I mean, I'm sorry. I disagree with him on it.
That's right.
Anyways, good to have y'all back. I've been lagging on somebody to pick on.
Yeah.
And so anyway, welcome back to the family.
Hey, thank you very much. I am glad to be back. So you raise your hand later if you think of something else. We'll go for a little bit longer. And I see we've got your hand raised back up. I see Michael Gibson.
I'm trying to put it down.
Not you. That's all right. You can leave it up. I know that you just hang tight. All right, let's try it now. I see Michael Gibson. Hand is raised. Let's see if that microphone is willing to cooperate right now. Look, and don't worry. We have sometimes we have audio problems here too. So I apologize that you're having difficulty, but the typing a note in the text might not get your point across, but you could always try that. I do want to say while I'm waiting, though, that one more time I want to remind people about what we've got coming next week. Next week, because we're ahead of the schedule, a couple of years ago when I did this Pentateuch New Look series, I worked the last two Torah portions of Bamidbar, Book of Numbers, into a single class so that I could do an introduction to the Book of Deuteronomy. That's what I plan to do again this year. So I'm going to do.
Hear me now, Rob?
I can.
Oh, great. I was worried. I've got a very thick New York accent, and I was afraid people wouldn't be able to understand my.
Well, I tell you, I get it. But Dave and Patty, even though they're from New York, they might not follow. But I got you, Michael. Good to hear you.
First of all, I want to, when you first, I was first started to listen to you, it really hit home because when I first gave my life to God and started keeping Torah, I did exactly the same thing you did. I started learning Hebrew.
Yep.
And when I began to become a little more proficient in Hebrew, I found out about actually what happened to the Masoretic texts and Rabbi Akiva and the whole works. And then I stumbled across a video that explained Pentateuch. Which I already knew about the difference in 100 years.
Right.
But I never knew how much difference that 100 years actually made. And you can even go to Job and you can see that it's more 100. It gives Job's life 100 years more. Right in the in the why am I trying?
Now, okay. So just for clarity, when you talk about the 100 years, you're saying specifically there are references where the dates in one version might be different than in another.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
The lives of the people from after Noah, there's 100 years taken away in the Masoretic text.
Okay.
And I was like, I spent all this time learning Hebrew, and now I find out that I don't know if I believe all that.
Yeah.
And it makes quite a bit of difference. But jumping to my question, these people that died in the plague, going back to your lesson.
Yeah.
It seems to me like they were of the younger generation.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, had the older generation ceased by that time?
Yeah. So not to jump in too quickly because you still are giving some good insight, but in Numbers chapter 26, verse 63 and following, it says from that point, it's like the earlier generation is dead. Okay. And so you've got Miriam is dead. Aaron is dead. And it says, in fact, let's look at that just because I want to make sure people have that in their notes. What we've got, Numbers 26, I think it's verse 63. Let's see if my memory is on this morning. It says, verse 63, Numbers 26, these were enrolled by Moses and Eleazar the priest, who enrolled the Israelites in the plains of Moab by the Jordan opposite Jericho. Among these, there was not one of those enrolled by Moses and Aaron the priest who had enrolled the Israelites in the wilderness of Sinai, for the Lord had said of them, they shall die in the wilderness. Not one of them was left except Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and Joshua, son of Nun. So by this point, according to the writer of Numbers here, according to the priestly narrative, that the sentence that you're going to die in the wilderness had been executed. And this is towards, so anything that happens after that, for instance, if the plague, you remind me, make sure I'm on the right plague, but there is a plague where 24,000 die. And it is my understanding, especially if it's after this, if we're talking chronologically, then this would be the younger generation. Is that right?
Yes, and that because I know they made mistakes after they crossed the Jordan.
Oh yeah,
and so it doesn't really surprise me that they would still you would think they would have learned by now.
Yeah.
But and one more thing before I go is I really wish that there was a version of the Septuagint in Hebrew, because when Moses is on the mountain and God is revealing his name and he says, this is my name forever. Okay, Olam. This is my name forever, Olam. But it is only written that way. Olam is only written that way one time in the entire Masoretic text.
All right, you got me writing something down, Michael. So how is it written? I don't know off the top of my head. I'll have to look. I'm going to write that down. You mean, let me make sure I understand. In Exodus where it says in Exodus 3:15, where it says, "This is my name forever"?
Correct.
Okay, so Le'olam, is that the Hebrew? I'm not looking at it.
Right. Right.
And what makes it different?
I believe that now I should have looked at this first. I know it's true, but I think it is written with the Vav as the O. I could be wrong.
It's written with the Vav as what? I'm sorry.
As the O in Olam.
Okay.
I know that it's only written, Olam is only written that way one time.
You know, I'm going to have to check that. Let's see. Okay, Michael, this is why we can be friends, because I'm going to challenge you to look things up, and I want you to do the same. I did a search just now, and I want to make sure I understand your point about one time, because when I look up Le'olam, it occurs 180 times in the Hebrew Bible, according to my search. But maybe there's more. Maybe there's more. Well, in the Hebrew, it's spelled Lamed Ayin Lamed Mem. But maybe whatever it is that you're referencing, maybe it's the only time it's spelled a certain way when it deals with the name. Or anyway,
Yeah.
I know you're going to look it up and you're going to email me, because now you've got me curious. Now I'm going to have to spend all day Saturday looking at something unless you can get off the call and go help me out.
I could do that if y'all are still. I can check my references.
Yeah, I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about me, Michael. I'm just joking.
I'm absolutely positive that is true.
All right.
Of course, the rabbinic explanation, of course, is that there are certain things that need to be secret and this and that, but it is the only time that is written that way.
All right, you're going to have to prove it to me, but I'm all right with that. I love this. That's why I wrote it in my notes. So you look that up, Michael, and then you can email me or message me, or there's a bunch of ways you can get in touch with me. Everybody knows how to get in touch with me.
Right. But that's just the reason that I wish we had a copy of the Septuagint in Hebrew, because you can double check that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I do want to thank you for really getting me into the Septuagint. I had been made aware of all the changes that Rabbi Akiva had made, and that really made a huge difference in the way things took place from Noah on. And so I want to thank you for that. And
well, if I made you think, then that's a good thing. You made me think today, so we're even. So you don't have to thank me again. But I will say that there also, when you deal with the Septuagint, the basic story is that the Septuagint was commanded. A translation was commanded to be made from the Hebrew to the Greek, and this took place approximately 285 BCE. So it's an ancient translation. Now, a lot of people can be very critical of the Septuagint, saying, well, it's not the Hebrew. I was critical of it when I didn't know anything about it. But what we find behind that Greek of the Septuagint is a German word scholars call Vorlage, 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 Vorlage. And what it in short, the idea is that the Greek is flavored, if I can say it that way, flavored with a Hebrew underpinning. And so it's not so easy to just dismiss it and say, well, I'm a Masoretic text guy. Like the guy who wrote me the other day, he said, I don't care what you say, Ross. I'm going back to the Masoretic text, and I'm going to just take that as my Bible, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Well, what we now know is that the Masoretic text, in many cases, represents a later strata of the text. In other words, the question came about like when Qumran, when the scrolls began to be discovered from, 46, winter of 46, 47, 1946, 47, once the scrolls began to come forward and people began to study them throughout the rest of the 40s and into the 50s and beyond, we found text written in Hebrew that looked more closely like the Septuagint. In other words, even though it's written in Hebrew, we can tell sometimes that the Septuagint Greek comes from a Hebrew that doesn't line up with the Masoretic text. I say all of that to say your point, Michael, about studying the Septuagint is very important. I see JJ says in Exodus, I'm sidetracking myself because he's commenting on your point. Exodus 3:15 from BHS, there is a Shava under the Lamed, and I don't see that in other places yet. Still looking. Okay, so I was looking at the consonants. Maybe JJ has found your point, and now I'll look that up, Michael. But anyway.
It'll take me like 2 seconds to pull up the Westminster Leningrad Codex and go to that, and I can. But that is, that's just an example of something that I can't check.
Yeah,
but
I got you.
Other than that, I'm there's so much. 100 years in itself doesn't seem much, but when you go 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, you've got a lot of time that passed.
Yeah.
I actually have listened to one study that says that Job's life occurred during the Ice Age. Now, that's only possible with the dating of the Septuagint. I don't know if that's true, but there's so much difference.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your comments, Michael. I'm glad that we are searching these wonderful mysteries together, and it's good to have you with us. So I'm going to look at this, and maybe I don't understand JJ's comments, but when I search, I'm going to make this one more point about this Leolam. When I searched, I went to Exodus 3:15 and found the occurrence of Leolam there, where it is spelled Lamed, Ayin Lamed Mem, and the Lamed has a Shava under it. I see that, and I'm scrolling. I mean, I'm seeing it all over the place. So Genesis 3:22, Genesis 6:3, Exodus 3:15, Exodus 15:18, Exodus 19:9. I mean, over and over and over. So I might be missing something. Either way, where else can you go to have a discussion about something this important? The world can be in flames, and we're discussing and debating whether or not this is the only place in all of ancient literature that Leolam is spelled like that. You can't have this kind of fun anywhere else. My goodness.
I got it from the Westminster. Did I say Westminster?
You
Leningrad
did.
Codex.
The Leningrad Codex, yeah.
It's in there, and also there's another weird thing. There's a Vav that's split there's a split. When Phineas stabs the Midianite and the Hebrew man, the Bob is actually split.
Huh.
It's just simple things like that. I guess I'm like you. I spent a lot of time learning Hebrew.
Yep.
I'd like to get more out of it.
Hey, well, you're on the right track, Michael, and you probably are a lot like me because I don't meet many people that concern themselves with such great intellectual knowledge as this. Like I said, it might not fix a lot of problems, but man, it's fun. And who can beat you in trivia when you learn things like this, right?
That's true. I'll get back to you. I will this week send you more. I'm drawing a blank.
That's all right. Look, hey, you go look it up, and when you have
It's been
time.
so long, since I saw it, but I know that it's true. I know that I saw it, and I know that I researched it to make sure it was true. So
right.
I'll get back to you.
All right. Look, I'm waiting for that information. And look, don't ever feel like it's that I don't love you because I don't believe you right away. I just happen to be one of those guys that I've been told a lot of times I know I'm right because I said it more times than anybody and then found out I wasn't right. So don't be offended. You just send the evidence and you and I will be on the same page. And next time we talk, we'll have something fun to discuss.
Very good. I appreciate your patience, Ross.
Hey, brother, I appreciate you. Thanks for coming and thanks for sticking with it. See you next time. All right, so I'm going to tell everyone we have been rolling on this thing for quite a while, and I know it's just because we missed one another so much, and it's hard to say goodbye. You think I might disappear for a couple of weeks if you let me go, but that's not going to happen, God willing. We are back with the intention of putting out more and more. Again, the first place we're going to roll out something new is the next thing new intended is this coming Saturday, a new study in Deuteronomy. So if you don't see me before then, we might go live in the middle of the week. We don't know, but here's what I think is going to happen. Seth and I have got to be out of the other place no later than July 31st. And that means it has to be emptied and cleaned. That's not happened yet. We got at least one more good load to go. And then this place is not quite ready for a tour because it's still got some stuff scattered out. We've got boxes that we've not quite unpacked. Lots going on. But you guys, it's really because of you. I mean, if we didn't have anybody to talk to and with, why do it? So I look forward to getting this place ready to showcase. It's an old building. We're trying to make we're putting doors in the offices this week, and that's a challenge because, it's an old building. Some of it's not perfectly square. We're trying to I'm not a carpenter or, I don't have any real skill sets like that. I can read about carpenters, but I'm not that good at it. So anyway, we're working hard to make it happen. And if this is a stretch, but if things are in really good shape, we have to remodel bathrooms. They're not in great shape yet, but we hope that it's just a stretch goal. By the 1st of September, I'd love to have like an open house where people can come and, if your schedule happens to allow. We're thinking about doing something like that. Don't buy tickets yet. We don't know if we can be ready yet. But if we can, it's a Labor Day weekend, and it's also my birthday that weekend. So that might be a good time. We come together, and you can sing to me, and we can show you the place. All right. Have a beautiful week. Shabbat Shalom, Shavua Tov. Listen, if you've not yet signed up for the newsletter, do that. RossKNichols.com. Go to the webpage, sign up for Ross's report. You just I don't add people to it because I don't want somebody later to say, well, you added me to your newsletter and I didn't want it. If you want it, sign up for it. We send something out every week, which gives you all the links and so forth. So do that. Also, if you go to Patreon, all the addresses are in our YouTube videos, but sign up for the Patreon. You can sign up for free, and it's just another way that we can be in touch. Have a beautiful week. Thanks for coming back, even though we've disappeared for a couple of weeks. We don't intend to do that to you again. Love you. See you next week. Shabbat shalom.